We were going to just go in a, like I said, in a question and answer type thing, but basically just to give you an outline of some of the things that Charles has faced, his journey, where he's at, and how he can hopefully seek some hope and redemption through this process, and knowing how difficult it is in our society, in our country, for anyone that has been incarcerated to get their feet on the ground on the outside. But as we begin, from the day you were released, give us a little sense of what life has been like.
It's been rough. I got out, and Scott was supposed to come and pick me up when I got released from prison. Everything was all planned out. Like Brad said, they let me out a week early, and I had no way of getting out. I went to Ricky Martin's up in Clanton. He's got a bunch of rundown campers in his own little church. And one of the rules is that you have to go to his church twice on Sunday and Wednesday night. So it took me a little bit to get down here. It was like the Sunday before my birthday on the 13th. I was actually able to come down here for the first time. And
what were the at Ricky's? Explain a little bit of what that is and what the collection was like, primarily because of you were not the only individual to be there.
No, I had a roommate. Me and another guy shared an 18-foot camper. He has six campers out there. He calls it a halfway house. And basically, it's the only place in the state of Alabama that a sex offender can go to with no money. Brad called a couple of places, and anywhere from $400 to $1,000 a month they want before I get out of prison. So yeah, it's ridiculous, but that's the way it is. So going to Ricky Martin's was my only option. I didn't have any choices. And I wouldn't let my dog live in one of those campers, to be honest with you. It's a mess. And going to his church, it's the only time in my life that I'd never really wanted to go to church. I mean, if a friend of mine or somebody that I knew asked me to go to church with them, I'd go, just because. But going to Ricky's church, I actually hated going to church.
What was it like when you first started coming here, and then also realizing what happened? What was the backlash?
Oh yeah, my eviction. I came down here, like I said, the Sunday before my birthday, and I did the morning church service, Sunday school, and then the third church service, and I went back to Clanton. When I got back there, Ricky went ballistic because I missed his church service, handed me an eviction notice because I missed his church service. He's a character. He really is.
When you were coming out, explain some of the situations you faced as far as employment.
Well, that was easy. I got a job the next day. Actually, I went to work the next day. I got out of prison on Friday, and I went to work Saturday morning. And worked for, 3-4 days? Yeah, Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Tuesday morning, I got fired. Went down to the sheriff's department in Clanton to register, and then went to jail. This is all within 4 days of me getting released, okay? Got a job, got fired, and went to jail. We're all within 4 days.
One of the situations was that he had some fines in Covington County, and they did not even know yet that he was released, and within 36 hours, they had sent a warrant for his arrest because his fines were unpaid from 5 years ago. And it's pretty difficult if you're going to try to pay off fines when you have no way of having any income. And so at that point, I called the district attorney there and basically tried to explain the story of what he had just been released. And now it's to the point now that we were supposed to be able to try to pay back on a monthly basis, and even that's been difficult because of the employment has been irregular. And he was talking about the job that he started, and that finished, and then had other employments, and it would stop, and then take you up to the USA Block when you're working through the job finder.
Yeah, I went to work for labor finders down on Federal,
Put it up local.
down on Federal, what was it, Federal Boulevard? Federal Boulevard. And they sent me out to USA Block. That was a good job. I was working 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and 8 hours on Saturday. But I ended up pulling 3 muscles in my leg, cleaning out a cement mixer. And that put me on my butt for 3 weeks. Now I'm back at Labor Finders. And, I was Stallings something. I forget the name of the construction company, but it's up at South Baptist Hospital where I'm working now. And it's been rough. If it wasn't for Brad and Scott and Mike and the folks and all of y'all, I'd probably be back in prison right now, to be honest with you. That first Sunday when I walked in here, the wealth of godly love that I felt from all of y'all, it was amazing. It really was. I've been in a lot of different kinds of churches all up and down the East Coast, but I ain't never been in a church like I have with this one in Snowden. That's the only thing that's still keeping me in Alabama is these 2 churches, to be honest with you.
When you mentioned it a couple weeks ago when I mentioned at-risk kids, describe your background and how you were one of those.
There was no such thing as at-risk kids when I was a kid, or HRS, or all them other letters. Those kids need guidance. They need a man in their life, and for the girls, they need a woman in their life. I was one of them kids. My father died when I was 5 years old. I turned 5 October 13th. He died December 7th. And then 2 weeks later, they buried him on their anniversary. My mom wouldn't let me go to the funeral. I just turned 5 years old, and she wouldn't let me go to the funeral. I was off the chain that day. And from that day on, I was off the chain. No way, you couldn't tell me nothing. I knew everything. I started working when I was 12 years old, working on fishing boats, pulling in mullet nets all night long. And from that, I graduated to crab boats and a couple shrimp boats. Then I went into construction and auto mechanics. But growing up, I did anything and everything I wanted to do. And it didn't matter whose toes I stepped on to get there. Actually, to be honest with you, it didn't matter whose head I stepped on to get there. I was going to do what I wanted to do, and I was going to live life by my rules. And I literally hated people. I was accused one time of being racist. My boss called me down to the office, which I wasn't very fond of because it was 15 miles out of my way. So I wasn't in a good mood to begin with when I got down there. He looked at me, he told me about the accusations, and I just looked at him and I smiled and I said, I'm not racist. I said, I hate everybody. I don't care if you're black or white. If you're a human being, I hate you. I still got fired, but.
So at this point in your life, you were basically doing everything but living for God.
Living for God.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as God when my father and my grandparents died. My grandmother and grandfather on my mom's side, my grandmother died when I was 7, and my grandfather died when I was 9. Those 3 people are the only 3 people in my life that cared about me. My mother hated my guts. By the time when I turned 16, I decided, I was 12 years old, I told you when I started working. Well, my mom decided I needed to pay rent. Her mortgage was $250 a month, just over. I was paying her $300 a month rent. If I wanted something, I had to go buy it. I might have got a Christmas card or a birthday card for Christmas and birthdays. Even that ran out after a while. I got involved in drugs. I even started bringing drugs from Mexico back to Florida, working a long line boat. And we did that. We did that for about 2 years before my boss got busted.
How many times have you been incarcerated? And what are the list of the things that
I've been
you've
in prison
charged
7 times. County jails, it's in the hundreds. I've been arrested for everything from assault and battery to my sex charge. Attempted murder on Leo. I tried to kill a cop when I was living up in New Jersey. And the cop was my best friend, and we used to go trapping together. But I don't know. I lived for myself, because that's all that existed in my world was me. I didn't care about nothing. To be honest with you, I really didn't even care about me. I'd stay awake for 7 or 8 days at a time doing coke. And it still worked. I still worked. I maintained a full-time job no matter what until we had that recession. That really got me messed up.
So in talking to you, there's two different times that you've felt a coming to Christ moment. Explain the first one when you were talking about when you're on I-65.
I came up to Montgomery to do some work, and I was staying in Troy with my girlfriend and her sister. On the way back to Mobile, me and my girlfriend got into an argument at that truck stop on I-65. I walked from that truck stop almost to the bridges. I don't know what came over me. I don't know why I did, but I stopped and I got down on my knees and I asked God to get me a ride back to Mobile. It wasn't 10 minutes later that truck driver going to Texas pulled over and picked me up and gave me a ride all the way to the Pilot truck stop in Mobile.
And then when you came to the point where
A couple of weeks later, after work, I went over to my buddy's house to do some drinking, smoked some crack with him, went back to the camper where we were living, me and my girlfriend. We stopped at the neighbor's house, and I told her to come on down and smoke a joint with me. It was January 21st, 2015. I woke up the next morning, I turned myself in because I knew there was a warrant for my arrest for moving and not telling nobody. 4 times a year I have to register with the Sheriff's Department. Now that I'm living in the city of Montgomery, I got to register with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department. Or I could go to prison for another 20 years. Actually, next time it might be 99. When I went to jail this last time in January, I scored out to 99 years because of all of my past felony convictions.
what did God tell you when you turned yourself in?
I know a lot of people believe that God don't talk to us, but trust me when I tell you this, God does talk to us. After my neighbors left, after we smoked the joint, I walked up into our bedroom, and I was walking across the foot of the bed to turn the TV on, and I just fell to my knees. It was like somebody took a baseball bat and came across the back of my knees with it. And I started praying, because I knew I was going to prison. There's no, when you do something wrong, God's going to punish you. You're going to get punished. I had to go to prison. I knew it. I knew I screwed up. But God told me, he told me right there in that camper, don't worry about it. I got you. I went to prison. They gave me a 15-year sentence. It was the bare minimum they could give me. I did 4 years, 8 months on that. They wouldn't give me parole. I had nowhere to go to. I got no family ties or nothing in Alabama. Actually, nowhere, but they're only concerned about Alabama, so they wouldn't let me get parole.
Now explain when you turned yourself in and you went to Kilby and the unusual situation that you ended up meeting the person that helps me lead the class in the prison, Jeffrey Walker. Explain that situation.
Me and Jeffrey had a real rocky start. When I got to Kilby, I spent 14 months at Kilby before I got sent to Staten. I got into the faith dorm a month before I left by calling the chaplain to a liar to his face. He didn't like that too much, but I have a bad habit of speaking the truth and not being nice about it. I'm trying to change that. It's not, I don't want to offend people like I used to do. I try not to do that anymore. But Brad, I tell you, the first night that me and Brad met, he told me he was a pastor. And I looked at him and I asked him, I said, are you a pastor or are you a preacher? I said, there's a big difference in my book. And he said, I'm a pastor. I said, you are? I said, we're going to find out. I said, I got serious trust issues with people. And when it comes to preachers and pastors, you really got to work to get my trust. But Brad has. Brad has been the example that I've been looking for 100 years. I've had pastors tell me that Everybody deserves a second chance except for people like me. I've had pastors tell me, oh, yeah, you can go to church, just not this one. We don't need your kind here. That's the kind of Christians that I've had to deal with over the years. I've been a sex offender for 20 years now. Well, this April will be 20 years exactly. And for 15 years before I ended up in prison here in Alabama, I tried to find a church. I really did. But they just wouldn't let me come.
So how did you end up in the Resolution for Men class?
I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was telling me that how he's fixing to get into the Resolution of Men class, and telling me that day that Brad gets you a mentor and all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, right. But I got interested in the class. I knew there was a bunch of changes I needed to make, and I needed to figure out how to make them. Because I was tired of living my life the way I was living. Something had to give. Because I really don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison. I like going fishing too much.
When I tried to set him up with a mentor, he would come every single class and berate me and literally say, no one will ever care about me. No one will ever write me a letter.
When you spend 15 years of your life being turned away, you kind of get that attitude. Okay, it wasn't nothing personal against you. Well, your job title did have a little bit to do with it, but...
So what happened when you got that first letter?
I was actually amazed that Scott wrote me back, or that Scott wrote me. And me and Scott have become really good friends over the last 3 years. So me and Brad.
What did you learn in the class, and what prompted you to stay in it?
Like I said, I knew I had a bunch of things in me that I needed to change, and I was trying to find a way of changing them. Well, getting involved in the Resolution of Men class added a whole new list of things that needed to be changed. In prison, you can't go to church or appointments when you want to. They have lockdowns and all kinds of stupid stuff goes on. It took a while for me to graduate, for us to get through the 15 chapters in the Resolution of Men book. It was like 20 weeks, 21 weeks, something like that, to do 15 chapters when you normally do one chapter a night. But I finally graduated, and I felt like I belonged. That's where God wanted me to be. So I went back when the next class started that night after graduation. I went back, and I kept going back. So one thing I did learn, everybody's got a story. It don't matter who you are or where you are. Everybody has a story, but everybody's story is going to be different. And you can learn. There's 12 people in every class. Well, we usually end up with 8 come graduation. But that's 12 different stories. Every 3 months, that's 12 different stories. And learning from other people's mistakes. I'm 54 years old. I've got no kids, nowhere. But I plan on having some. And I'm going to be the father that God wants me to be. And I'm going to be the husband that God wants me to be. And I'm trying really hard to be the man that God wants me to be.
Is that with the Resolution for Men class, because like I said, I'm going to be leading the class here in a couple weeks, and it's difficult because basically when you're deciding to go there, you're going to have to go through some things. This book doesn't let you out easy.
The Bible lets you off easy compared to the Resolution of Men class, okay? And for you guys that are my age, that your kids are already grown and you got grandchildren, what you learn in that book you can pass on to your grandchildren and to your children. Brad's son has read that book. When he was working for a newspaper, he was passing those books out like they was cotton candy. He was giving every man one. Because every man needs one. Every man needs one. I got my book, and I still go through it. And Jill will tell you when Brad messes up, don't forget chapter 6 now.
Chapter 6 is how you're supposed to treat your wife. So. We can graduate to that. What were, because one of the things, like I said, I've been doing the prison ministry for 10 years, and I only see it from the viewpoint of being in the chapel, but explain what the living conditions are like at Staten.
I was in the faith dorm at Staten. It's built for 100 men. They have 200 men in it. The bathrooms are built for 20. So you got 200 men trying to get into a bathroom at 4 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go to work and do whatever they got to do for the day. Classes, because they have the PTF class out there during the day, as well as trade school and the furniture plant and the state garage. I went to trade school. When I graduated, I went to work for the furniture plant because I don't like sitting around if I don't have to. I didn't. This was the first time in my life that I've been in prison and I was able to better myself. Because in Florida, you don't have trade programs in the prison systems anymore. They did away with all that back in the 90s. They don't have faith dorms. They have a faith camp. The entire prison is faith-based. And last I heard, there was a 20-year waiting list to get in because they only have 4 prisons throughout the state of Florida that are faith-based. There's not a whole lot of benefit of being in a faith dorm, except for it's a lot cleaner and a lot quieter. That's about it. You still got to put up with all the crap that goes on in the camp. You still got to put up with the lockdowns.
One of the things now, it's been over and over in the news, and they talk about the expansion of the prisons, but the violence that you witness, because one of the things he was talking
It takes money to
about,
build prisons.
he was talking about the class, how long it took him to go through the class. Well, part of that reason was in that particular time he was doing it, they would be on lockdown constantly for stabbing or something, and they wouldn't allow me in to do the class. We weren't able to catch up on the chapter. But that type of life, what is it like?
I mean, there's more drugs at Staten than there is in the free world. And you know, they don't say it on the news, but the officers are the ones that are bringing it in. Yeah, the guys that are supposed to be protecting us and guarding us, they're the ones selling us the dope, selling us the knives. I mean, you don't get, I'm very talented. I'm a mechanic by trade, and I've spent 30 years in construction, building houses. I can build pretty much anything. Okay? If I need to build a knife, I can build a knife. And that's what you have to do in prison. But at Staten, you can buy them from the officers. Nice ones, too, not the cheap stuff you see at the flea markets. It's good stuff. They don't play. Same with cell phones. I mean, what is that? I forget what they call those. But you're looking at about $300 for a cell phone, for one of those $20 flip phones that you used to get at Walmart. You're gonna pay $300 for one, and they kill each other. They literally do. They stab each other all the time over the drugs and the money, and it's ridiculous. It really is. But they're not going to tell you that stuff on the news. On the news, they're going to tell you inmates bring it in through the furniture plant, through trade school. Drugs has come in that way, I'm not going to lie, but the majority of it comes in because of the officers. And that's the kind of stuff that you got to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Cold food, when you get it, most of the time the dishwashers don't work, and they give you styrofoam plates to eat off of. And they cut the portions down when they do that, because there's not enough room on that little plate for everything. Not that they give you a lot to begin with, but it's no picnic, not by a long shot.
Explain the shower and the bathroom situation.
What do you mean?
The lack of facilities for so many people.
Yeah, it did. I mean, you got a bathroom built for 20 people, and you got 200 using it. You got 8 shower heads and 16 toilets, 12 sinks for 200 men. And when B-Dorm's got 360 in it, and it used to be a Canon plant. That's what B-Dorm used to be. Now it's a dormitory. Now, like I said, they got 360 men in there. And they said when there's hot water breaks, they have to come over to our dorm and shower. And when our hot water heater breaks, we have to go over their dorm and shower.
The camp at Staten is basically for 700 people, and there's pretty much 1,400. It's double the size of what it was made for.
But all the prisons in Alabama are like that. That's why they want to build new ones. They just don't have the money to do it. But if they would do what they were supposed to do and parole guys out that deserve to get paroled out, that actually do the stuff they're supposed to do, they wouldn't be overcrowded. They just don't want to do what they're supposed to do.
What has it been like since you've got out? You mentioned this a little earlier about some of the ways that people have shown you love at here in Trinity and Snowden.
Wait, run that by me again.
What are some of the ways that you have felt the love from the 3 churches that have helped you?
Besides the truck and all the money and everything that I've gotten?
Explain it.
Like I said, when I first walked in this church the week before my birthday, the overwhelming feeling of godly love I felt in this place was unreal. And when I went to Snowden for the first time, it was the same way. Snowden's a lot smaller church. I think we've got like 20 people on any given Sunday. But it's just, the love that y'all possess is unreal. It really is. These 2 churches are a perfect example of the Philadelphia church in Revelations, of what a church is supposed to be. Now, don't y'all go get in a big head now. But it's been great. It's been fantastic. And like I said, if it wasn't for all of y'all, I'd probably be back in prison by now. I'd have probably gave up and went back to prison. Y'all have been a family that I don't have, each and every one of you. And I really appreciate it. I really do.
How would you want God to work through you through this whole process? And what does that look like for you about helping others and leading others and talking to others about what Christ has done for you?
I have to pass on what I've received. I have to. I can't. It's easier for me to strike up a conversation about God than it is about fishing and hot rods. And trust me, I'm from South Florida, okay? I know about jacked up 4x4s. I've built a dozen of them. And no matter where I go, I find some way of bringing God into a conversation, always. Even if they're in a conversation going, I'll get one started, just so I can talk about God, because He's all I got. I got y'all too, but God put y'all in my life, each and every one of you, and at a time when I most needed somebody too.
What would be one of the things that you would want to say or explain what your future may hold?
I don't know what my future may hold. I know what I want to do. I'd really like to be able to go to North Africa on a missionary trip. But I don't know if that's what God's got planned. Unfortunately, He don't lay out a roadmap for you when you turn your life over to Him. And He does take His time sometimes answering prayers, but He will answer. As long as you pray with a pure heart, He's going to answer your prayers. Always.
Here's a Bible verse I think that you wanted to.
Tell you to move my hat. You don't touch another man's hat. Good Lord. Can't take you anywhere.
I know.
I wrote a sermon a while back when I was at Kilby. It was on Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am meek and lowly in heart. Ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I know you think about Jesus having a light burden when He's got all of us to deal with, but that is a light burden for Him. And He wants every one of us to keep coming to Him constantly. Because no matter how, just because you get saved, just because you love God, life ain't going to be roses. It ain't going to happen. Not like that. It tells you that. In fact, it was Paul that tells us that you're going to be persecuted. You're going to have to deal with trials and tribulations. But God's going to get you through them trials and tribulations. A lot of people disagree with me on this, but I'm going to tell you all straight. Jesus is our brother. The Bible teaches us to have a personal relationship with our Lord. You can't get more personal than that. All of us are sons and daughters of God. Jesus is the Son of God too. That makes us brothers. And when I pray, I don't pray. I talk to God just like I'm talking to y'all. Like I said, He's my brother. And my brother can't take it, nobody can. And I lay into Him too.
Is there anything you'd like to say to wrap up this part, and then we're going to open it up for questions if anybody wants to.
I'll be honest with all y'all, every man in this church needs to take that resolution of men class. I haven't been invited to go with y'all yet, but I'm hoping an invitation is gonna be coming along before that Wednesday.
I don't know, can you show up to every class?
Oh, I can show up to
Okay.
every class, you know that.
Okay,
I ain't got no wardens and cops to deal with no more.
okay.
I just gotta make sure on a Wednesday night I leave a little bit earlier.
Okay, my question is, how valuable are the mentor letters to inmates? I know people have some questions too, but first of all, Scott, could you stand up, please? This is his letter writing mentor that I think helped change your life. Can I say that? Would that be pretty accurate?
Can you say what?
That Scott helped change your life?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I don't want to embarrass you, but I did wonder, what does it mean to the inmates to receive mentor letters?
Well, that goes back to Brad and Walker. Brad tried for 3 years to get Walker to write them. Well, yeah, I know, it's funny now, it really
It is
is,
funny, but-
to stop and think about it. But when you look at it from our side, okay, we got free world people coming in every day, making all kinds of promises and then leaving, and nothing ever becomes of it. And then Brad comes along, and he's got letter writing mentors for guys. I mean, really? Take that someplace else, dude. We're tired of hearing about it. And that's just the attitude there is. I got no family nowhere. Everybody's dead and gone. Having Scott to write to, having somebody out in the free world to write to, was a great help. Just knowing that he cared enough, that he cares enough once a week to write me. Tell me about his vacation. Tell me about his new grandbaby. You know, right, his wife is going to be here with him tonight, but she had to go to with her daughter because she's got 6 kids and 3 of them are in bed sick. So Scott's wife went to help her out. But Scott's been great to me. He really is. And being able to write him and Brad, it gave me someone to write to. It gave me some hope that there's something better out there for me. Scott met us at the Waffle House, was it? Mm-hmm. When you picked me up that Friday? Because Brad had to get back here. Scott took me to the food stamp office. He took me to apply for my job up there in Clanton, and he helped me get my truck. One of the members of his church gave me my truck, and I love that little truck, and I drive the hell out of it too. It don't go slow. It don't like to anyway. But it's when you have someone that actually says they're going to do something and does it, it's a big difference. Scott got me food packages while I was in there. The boots I'm wearing, he bought me 2 years ago. But I knew I was going to need them when I got out, so I kept them wrapped up, and I didn't wear them while I was in prison. Sent me stamps. Him and Brad both sent me stamps. And he even came down to visit me one weekend. I asked him to come. It's really amazing the feeling that you have when you have somebody that cares enough about you to write a few words on a piece of paper and help you deal with things that you're dealing with, even though they've never been in there. It's been a big help. It really has.
Yeah, right now it's basically just temporary employment, and even there's a possibility through the labor finders you could get hired for a job, but usually is it 30 days or 90 days?
90 days.
90 days, you'd have to work for them every day before they could hire them in full time. But obviously there's no consistent income, there's no regular home. And honestly, the place that he's living now, it's one of those efficiency hotels that has been doing that probably for the last because of donations from people from Mulder and also from Trinity that have helped them to do that. But obviously, in Snowden, but obviously the big point is that it's going to be difficult to get started if you don't have a job or a place to live.
Right, and a couple times you were let go because they found out you had prior convictions, correct?
Had what?
He said prior convictions. We don't know. There's a couple of jobs that he was there, he was working, and the next thing he doesn't hear anything from.
They know you have prior convictions before they hire you, right?
No.
No? Okay.
No. I have to tell them, and I do. I can't change my past. I just have to accept it and move on.
Exactly.
So if you want to know, if there's anything that you want to know about me, ask me. My life's an open book for y'all. I don't keep secrets. I don't tell lies. Me and Brad had that discussion the other day. There was someone had lied to him. He goes, I don't like being lied to. I said, who's that sound like?
He's also, and you talk about, and Jill was talking about the letter writing mentor part, and the thing that I've tried to impress among the people here that I've asked to be letter writing mentors is it goes both ways. You learn as much from them and are there for them as much as they are for you. And the one funny story about Charles and the mentor part was somebody had done the 40 days of prayer, and he kept bugging me because I said I was going to pray for Jill for 40 days. I couldn't make it. I'd get to 26 and I'd forget, and he says, what do you mean? You wake up, you do this, you can pray, you can't pray for your wife for 40 days? So
Thank you, Charles.
yeah, getting on me is the same thing. But even with the letter writing mentor part, you learn so much about somebody's life that you can't even fathom. And even this is in the Kairos ministry, is we have probably Mike Rogers sitting next to Scott here is going to be leading the Kairos prison weekend, and I'm going to be on the clergy team, and there's going to be 5 men from Mulder that are going to be on that team when we go into prison next April 30th to May 3rd.
Can you explain what the Kairos Prison Ministry weekend is?
The Kairos prison ministry, if some of you have known what Walk to Emmaus is, it's basically the Walk to Emmaus program inside the prison. And it's a little different because obviously you're in a prison, there's certain things you can't do, but it's basic Christian principles. It's basic Christian principles that to help you become a leader in the church and wherever you're at, to be the man that God wants you to be. And the part about with the mentor part, and even in Kairos, getting to know these people, one of the things that you send them letters. Well, I can count 50 times where we have given a letter to someone from someone on the outside, and they haven't received a letter in 15 to 20 years. These are people that have families, because a lot of times when people have families and they've got good relationships, that stops after 5 years. For the most part, they still love them, but they stop having contact with them. So when you reach out and you send some a letter, that happened in this last round of the Resolution for Men class. There were a couple of guys that received a letter from somebody here that had not received a letter in 10 years or more. So they don't even know the outside world exists, and that part of it, to have somebody from the outside say, you matter, you mean something. It's big.
What would be your ideal employment, ideal job?
Working for Caterpillar.
Okay, as a mechanic?
As a diesel mechanic. That's what I spent 3 years in trade school doing.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been a mechanic my whole life. It's just these cars have gotten so small and everything's so cramped. I need to stretch out a little bit. There's plenty of room on a semi. But yeah, I've already applied for Caterpillar. I did that last week. Again, but that's my ultimate job. That's where I really like to go to work for, is Caterpillar.
Something else that I was hoping that maybe you guys would talk about too is, and you sort of kind of touched on it a little bit, but the difficulty for an inmate when they get out of prison. I mean, the recidivism rate is 80% for someone when they get out of prison, but they don't, I shouldn't say they, but it's not, once you're out of prison, it's so difficult from a cultural standpoint to get back integrated into the free world, to try to make it work.
The more time you do, the harder it gets to adjust. Mm-hmm. And some guys don't adjust. They really don't. And it's a shame. But when you get out of prison and you got nobody out there, you're going to go back. Period, end of sentence. If you don't change your ways while you're in prison, you're going to go back. Because you're not going to change them when you get out.
Do they have any kind of program in prison, to help you prepare?
No,
I think that'd be a
No.
good idea.
they have a pre-release program that you go through, but they tell you what you can and can't do, and that's it. They don't try to help you set up. I was in prison in New Jersey. When I got paroled out, I had an apartment to go to and I had a job to go to. When I got to go, the next day I went to go see the parole officer, he handed me 2 slips of paper. One was for a place to live and one was for a job. Down here, they don't do nothing. If I couldn't have gone to Ricky Martin's, I would have went back. I would have went to jail down in Mobile. They'd have returned me to my arresting county, and I'd have sat down there until I found a place to live.
Kind of hard to find a place to live. when you're
Yeah,
in jail.
it is. It's real hard. That's why I'm staying in a motel right now.
That sounds like something that should change.
There's, in doing, in the Kairos part, there was one of the people that we met that actually had their end of sentence date, and they stayed in prison for more than a year after their end of sentence date because they had nowhere to go. And they wouldn't release him until they had a place to go. And he was done serving his time, and he had nowhere to go.
In Florida, they don't care. They'll just turn you loose. You got 3 days to register, 2 days to register. If you don't register, then they'll put you back in prison. Here, they don't do nothing for you. Not at all. And down in Florida, they got people inside the prison, free world people that come in, they'll help you out with stuff. There's all kinds of stuff in other states. Alabama don't have nothing. They don't care. They really don't. Lock them up and throw away the key.
Give them
Yeah, there's one in Prattville called Vineland Homes. That old boy out there, he's another one like Ricky Martin though. But he wants $500 a month. Vineland Homes in Prattville, they want $950.
So the
You go out
state,
there.
the state does not have halfway houses for an
No.
inmate?
No, sir.
Now, there is none like that for men, but particularly there are none for people that have a sexual offender offense. And there are several halfway houses for men, but some of them, one of them is called the Renaissance House in Montgomery, and it's like the Taj Mahal. And it's one of the best programs. Everyone wants to get in there. They have like, I think, 12 people at a time. I mean, there's so many, so even just to be able to get in there, even from some of the other people, and that's one of the reasons why here there was a woman that came into the office and actually was asking for help from Mark Jackson, and Mark Jackson wasn't here, and so Tanya and I talked to her, and she was just released from Tutwiler, and she spent time here coming to worship, and she was in a halfway house for women in Montgomery, and even this wasn't any public program. This was just a woman, a young mother of 3 kids, who has this house on Madison Avenue for 10 women that are coming from formerly incarcerated, and for them, they're not sexual offenders, so that helps them be able to live there, but she's just doing that on her own. And after the woman that came here left, and she actually was shoplifting and went back to, is going to be back for till November, still being incarcerated. But that's when I've asked people here to help get undergarments. That was Robin Nelson, because what happens if you're in prison? They have nothing. And you can imagine what the quality of those undergarments would look like. And
Very good. I can promise you
Yes.
that.
We brought them Christmas presents, and then this last time I went there, they got 2 new women in the house, and then I was dropping off the other ones, and you could just see the look on their face when they came down, and I called Robin up and talked to some more people here to bring them undergarments for the people that didn't have them. And I'm actually going to meet with Holly tomorrow for that very reason, to see what things we can do, because they don't have anything. It's not, and this woman is basically just doing it because she believes God's calling her to do it and receiving no help. But it's a problem. It's a problem, and I've seen it. And like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years, and when people get out, these are people I know that I've met that have that have been through the programs in prison, that they do have the JAM ministry, and they've been through and they have a start, but the success rate for the people that I've seen is 50-50, because when they get out, it's so difficult. If, like you said, if you don't have love and you don't have a family,
Those programs don't do nothing when you get out.
exactly, they're to help prepare
Okay.
you when you're there, but once you get out,
You're on your own. You're literally on your own.
Charles, can you tell them what, when you came out of prison, what you actually had that was yours?
My Bible. When I turned myself in back in Mobile, I took my Bible to jail with me.
This is in September, I think she said, when you
Yeah,
left.
in September, when I got out. I mean, I had my boots and some underwear that Scott bought me off the hygiene package, but my Bible, and that was it. That was it. They give you a pair of blue jeans. I still got the blue jeans. I didn't wash them. I threw them out this morning. I ain't washing them things again. They're too short and they're too small. But they don't, like I said, they don't care.
Right,
They
I guess that's what the point was I was trying to make was you actually, when you got out, you actually had 3 churches.
I had 3
that were willing to
churches.
jump up and say, okay, this man has
had-
nothing, let's get it for him. I'm wondering how many inmates get out with the exact same things that you had that don't-
Nothing, none.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a one.
Joy had a question.
Brad, I just wondered how you became interested in this particular ministry. What got you involved?
It's an interesting question, because when I first came from Wisconsin to Alabama, and I mentioned before how important Walk to Emmaus was to my life, and we were at church in Trinity, and there was a man there that was in the reunion group, and his name was Ed Reschke, and I was going to attend the reunion group, and Jill's like, "Why would you attend the reunion group? You don't know any of those men." I said, "They're brothers in Christ." So I showed up the first day of reunion group, and Ed looks at me and he says, "Do you want to be in prison ministry?" I said, "Let's go. Sign me up." And he almost passed out, because he had been asking people in the reunion group for the last 5 years, and not one of them had signed up. Well, I remember this was in the middle of a training, and I remember this as clear as a bell. I didn't have the proper training, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get in for this weekend. And they let me in, and I got a call, and I was away in Birmingham or something, and my son answered the phone and says, "Dad, they're letting you in prison." And I was going, "Yes," because I was able to do work this weekend. And how God has worked in those 10 years, I can't even begin to fathom. And I know 100% for a fact that led me into ministry. There's no doubt about it. And even including one of the men that was here back in July, Sarge, he was in the first graduation of the Resolution for Men class, and he told me when I was doing Kairos for the first couple of years, he said, "Oh, you're going to be a pastor someday." I said, "Yeah, right, sure I am." But that group at Trinity, those ones that said no, like 6 of them have been part of Kairos now. And one of the things that I would want people here to realize is God calls us to reach out to the lost. And the one thing, and I've told this to Scott too, we're to go out and we are to witness to people. Well, the one thing about the people in prison, if you witness to them, like Charles, and Charles gets out, say Charles gets his feet on the ground. Charles can go and talk to and witness to people for Jesus Christ that we couldn't even think of witnessing to, because they wouldn't even listen to us, because they haven't lived the experiences they have. So when we come in for like a Kairos weekend, we're there to love them, basically. We love them and give them food and say, we're not going to leave you. But the whole point is, in that particular instance, is for these men to go inside the prison and spread Christ's love to those members. And then when they get out, do the same thing. And that's the power of it. The one of the coming on, and I hope you write this down, on March 29th, Dion Wright is going to be preaching here at all 3 services. And Dion Wright is one of the most fascinating men that I've ever met. And I met him in the prison on that first or second Kairos weekend I was at. And he was a server in the back. He was an inmate server. He was incarcerated for 18 years. And he came up to me before the weekend, and he put his hand on my shoulder. And he said, "Can I pray for you?" And I said, "Okay." And I needed prayers at that time. I was suffering through some physical stuff. And he came in and he prayed for me. And before the week, I was healed completely. And I got to know more about Dion. And since Dion created the program called JAM Ministry, it's called Jesus is the Answer Mentor Ministry. And it was, in some ways, it was like a resolution for men because he had inside mentors and outside mentors, and I was one of his outside mentors. Well, he created this program. He taught, while he was an inmate, he talked to the governor to put this, they put him on the phone with the governor of Alabama to put this program in place. Well, at Staten, there have been more than 300 graduates of the JAM program. There's only been one that's been released that's come back. And he wants Dion to create this program and to move it to other places in the prison. So since Dion's got out, he went to Birmingham. He's a pastor of a church. He founded the church himself. He is a talented musician, playwright, and actor, and has had plays produced in Atlanta, Birmingham, Montgomery, and Huntsville. And he created a program called Right Way Construction Company in Birmingham that hires formerly incarcerated individuals and gives them a place to live. He's coming here to preach on March 29th, and you'll be amazed. And I told him back when I was in prison, I want to write your book because I can't even fathom who this person is and what he's done. And this is a guy that was in prison for 18 years. And to me, that's part of the power. And like Charles says, everybody's got a story. Every one of us here has a story and how God has reached us. And to think that those men, that people have forgotten them, and it is. In our society, it's throw away the key. Lock them up, throw away the key. That's the way people think. But I've seen Jeffrey Walker. I've seen Jeffrey Walker in that prison lead people to Christ. I've seen him go above and beyond and try to show people. Jeffrey's probably not getting out anytime soon. His end of sentence is 2071. He's 58 years old. And I've seen him lead countless young men to mentor them, to lead them to Christ, that they have a chance when they get out. And I want this church to be a part of it. And that doesn't mean everybody's got to go into prison. There's so many different ways that we can help and be a part of this. And I want this church to be a part of it. And I'm going to keep bringing opportunities. And I hope that people will honestly consider them and look at them because that's what God calls us to do. And trust me, the benefit and what will come back to you will be tenfold.
20-fold. God blesses you greatly when you do what he wants you to do. And it ain't hard. It's not hard at all. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And I'm being real. If I can walk with God, anybody can do it. If I can go out there and talk to God about talk to a total stranger about God, anybody can do it. Because that's what he wants us to do. He calls us to be his disciples. Go out and spread his word. Because it's worth spreading. That's the best fertilizer in the world. Anybody else got any questions?
As far as the prison ministry is concerned, is it open to any inmate that wants to go into it, or is there like a selection process?
Yeah, go ahead and say it again.
As far as the prison ministry is concerned, is it open to any inmate that's interested in it, or is there like a selection process, or how does that work?
There's a couple things. One, there's certain programs that they have. Basically, at any correctional facility, they have people come in and run programs pretty much morning through night. As far as like with the resolution for men goes, you've got 12 spots. And Jeffrey is the leader on the inside and basically tries to get people that may have, and some of them have a strong faith, some of them are just learning about their faith, but to put together a list, and those 12 are in that class. And there's a waiting list to get into this class. It has been, we've done 7 classes, and the graduation is February 13th, and we'll have another one starting up after that. But like for Kairos, there's 36 spots, sometimes 30, depending on if there's enough room. And to get a Kairos application in the prison is like getting the golden ticket. And I've seen it where, not in a good way, that people have sold them. They've used them as barter. They give them to the different dorms for the opportunity to go through a Kairos weekend. But one of the benefits for the Kairos weekend for them is the fact that we're able to bring in better food and we bring in homemade cookies. And over a course of a Kairos weekend, they will eat 600 dozen cookies. And the funny part is, by the time the weekend is over, they're pretty sick of cookies. But one of the reasons that draws them to that is for the ability to say, to get out of their normal routine, to learn. And there's, like I said, there's other programs in the prison. Some of them, don't have waiting lists and things like that. But, and I know many of them have signed up for everything that they can be a part of, just for the life in the prison, to keep something going, to keep you doing something.
And so they think it's supposed to look good for you in front of the parole board. Everything, all the programs that are designed in DOC are supposed to make you look good when you go for parole. They don't even look at the stuff.
Yeah, one of the things now, and this is probably in the last year, that they've allowed now, after they graduate from the Resolution for Men, we get a copy of the graduation form and the certificate, and now they allow the graduate Resolution for Men to be in their parole jackets. So it's also something that's a benefit for them.
And the Kendrick brothers, who did the movie Courageous, you may be familiar with that, and Fireproof and things like that, they actually are aware of this class that Brad has and have donated books. Most of the books have been purchased, but they have donated a box of books, and I think all the
And all the
certificates,
certificates.
correct?
All
Yeah.
the certificates that we got, that Brad got. The certificates are really nice, too. I got mine packed away in a box. I don't have no place to hang it up yet. But one of these days, I'm going to have that thing in a picture frame, and it's going to be hanging on my wall in my house. Because it means everything to me. It really does. I mean, it's a piece of paper with words on it, but what that went into that piece of paper is that what I'm proud of. I've changed a lot over the years, just since I've known Brad and Scott and y'all. Brad made me a member of Snowden. I was really surprised, but that was the icing on the cake with you. That's what got me to trust you completely and know that you're real about what you say, and that means everything to me. That's worth more than all the money in the world.
And one of the things about making a member, and this was what the superintendent at the time asked us, it was one of our annual reviews, he asked people, Methodist pastors, to make inmates members of their church. And the reason behind it is really brilliant, because like Charles says, it makes you belong, but the other part is, like I told you, is when these men get out for prison, they're not welcome in churches. And there was one of the people that I met through the Kairos ministry, and he got out. He was in prison for 7 years. He went to his hometown. He walked into a church, and before the opening hymn was over, they ushered him out of the building and said, "You're not welcome here." And he never went back to church again. And he was arrested, and now he's back in prison. But the part about making someone a member, and that was one of the reasons I made Jeffrey a member of Snowden and made Charles a member of Snowden, for the mere fact that if they got out in the Methodist Church, that somebody couldn't say, "You're not a member." And they could go to any church, any of the Methodist church, and transfer their membership. So they would be a member of a church. And that was part of the reason. That was what the superintendent suggested, and that's what we started doing with Jeffrey. And it wasn't, and like I said, I was in the transition coming here. I mean, it was the last Sunday we were at Snowden, and we made Charles a member at Snowden.
What do you think has been your biggest obstacle when you came out? Like the biggest challenge that you faced?
Me.
Put your microphone.
Me. I'm my biggest challenge. I was talking to Brad a few weeks ago about monsters. Not the ones that when you was a little kid, you thought it was under your bed or in the closet. But the monsters that are inside ourselves that we have to deal with every day when we choose to walk with God. And when you've lived a life like mine, my life is all violence. If you looked at me crooked, I'd knock your teeth down your throat. I wouldn't want to get in a pissing contest with you. You mouth off to me, I hit you in the mouth. Period, end of sentence. Because I bulldozed my way through life. I really did. And when you ask God for something like patience, Okay? He's not just gonna all of a sudden zap you and you're gonna have infinite patience. He's gonna give you reasons to earn patience and to learn it. Okay? When you ask God for something, he's gonna give it to you, but you're probably not gonna like the way he's gonna give it to you. Peter, his biggest problem was himself. King David, his biggest problem was himself. Me, my biggest problem is myself. And when I stop letting self get in front of me, I do really good. And that's the hard part. Men don't want to admit, men are men. Men do not want to admit when they're wrong. Okay? It's a golden rule. Women can't figure it out, but, hey. Getting involved in resolution in men class, it's going to teach you to tell another man that you love him. It's going to teach you to how to fix things. It's going to teach you to admit when you're wrong. And there's some stuff in there that you may not want to admit to. The resolution of men covers everything, from being addicted to porn, to cheating, gambling, all of that. Everything you're not supposed to do, it touches on and tells you everything you are supposed to do, straight from the Bible. I don't know if y'all ever got to see the movie Courageous or Fireproof, but they're awesome movies. And that's what the book comes from. And it's a great class, it really is. And you'll meet a bunch of great men. And if you get involved with Rad's prison ministry and right inmates, there's good guys that are locked up. There really is. I wouldn't have called myself a good guy 5 years ago, but I'm a good guy now. I'm gonna die a good guy. But good don't get you into heaven. Otherwise, there'd be a waiting list to get through those pearly gates, walking with God and doing what he wants you to do. And all you got to do is ask him. All you got to do is ask him, God, what do you want me to do? You wake up in the morning, God, as soon as your feet touch the floor, God, help me get through this day. There was a little thing I read on Facebook one day about, oh yeah, I did this and I did that. Oh, well, I ain't got out of bed yet. Well, I'm going to need your help as soon as my feet hit the floor, God.